On January 31st, 2023, while Cancelo shocked the world with his sudden deadline day transfer to Bayern Munich, the Portuguese defender has been widely regarded as the best fullback in the world in these last few seasons. So what went wrong? What could have driven the English champions to loan out one of their most crucial players to a direct Champions League rival? If you ask Cancelo, the answer is pretty simple: Pep Guardiola. The world-class fullback had fallen out with his coach over lack of playing time, as Pep has started 18-year-old Rico Lewis and Nathan Ake instead of him since the end of the World Cup. Cancelo was furious and let Guardiola know, and before we knew it, was signed and seated on a plane to Munich. But this wouldn't be the first time Pep had fallen out with a star player. In fact, he's probably had more bad breakups with athletes than the entire Kardashian family put together. Which is why in today's video, we're taking a closer look at Pep Guardiola's most toxic football feuds. Welcome back, guys. You're watching the Sideline Starters, and my name is Andy, first team all sideline. Drop a like to help us keep growing, and without further ado, let's get started. The first feud we're looking at spans over an entire decade and transcends two clubs, as Pep Guardiola and Yaya Toure couldn't get along at both Barcelona and Man City. It all began in 2008, Guardiola's first year as Barcelona manager. The former club captain was initially lambasted by Spanish media for his lack of coaching experience, and drew even more criticism for selling superstar Ronaldinho, the popular Portuguese Deco, and the well-respected Gianluca Zambrotta. But Deco and Zambrotta were already both in their 30s, while Ronaldinho probably spent more time at nightclubs than he did at the Camp Nou. Yaya Toure was very different. The 25-year-old Ivorian midfielder served as a defensive base of a midfield three consisting of legends Xavi and Iniesta. He was powerful but skilled, aggressive but also incredibly intelligent, and appeared to bring the perfect balance to Barcelona's diminutive midfield. But Guardiola had different plans. He had already formed a relationship with Sergio Busquets a year prior while coaching Barca's B team, and promoted the 19-year-old midfielder to the senior squad immediately. Yaya found himself splitting game time with Busquets and was even moved to center back on some occasions. It was clear Pep had his favorites. And by Guardiola's second year, Busquets had taken over the holding midfield position, playing 33 La Liga games in 2,320 minutes to Yaya's 23 games in 1,491 minutes. Busquets would go on to complete the greatest midfield trio of all time, winning every trophy in the process, while Yaya was sold to Man City during Sheikh Mansour's takeover, forging an incredible legacy in the Premier League in his own right, including an iconic 2013 where he scored 20 goals from midfield. But the story doesn't end there. Yaya would be reunited with Guardiola in 2016 after City sacked Manuel Pellegrini, and we saw a repeat of what happened at Barcelona. Pep preferred Fernandinho and Gundogan in his midfield and began phasing Toure out of his plans, drawing an irate response from Yaya's agent Dimitris Saluk, saying Pep doesn't have, and I quote, "the balls to say that he was wrong to humiliate a great player like Yaya." The Yaya saga was in full effect, with Pep responding.
His manager spoke. In that moment, Yaya is out. Except Mr. Dimitris Saluk come back in the press conference or his friends in the media and say, apologize to Manchester City, the first one, the second one, his teammates, and after the trainer. Until he doesn't speak, Yaya is not going to play.
Yaya would go on to apologize for Saluk's behavior, but the writing was on the wall. Toure left Man City in 2018, but the animosity continued after his departure. Yaya insinuated that Guardiola's treatment of him was racially motivated. Toure told France Football, "Guardiola insists he has no problems with black players because he is too intelligent to be caught out." He continued, "But when you realize that he has problems with Africans wherever he goes, I ask myself questions. The day he will line up a team in which we find 5 Africans, not naturalized, I promise I will send him a cake." While it should go without saying that Guardiola has advanced the careers of several African players, it seems that Yaya might have been alluding to our next toxic football feud. The great part about writing this video was that Guardiola somehow had all his beefs around the same time. His 2008 feud with Yaya was happening while Pep was also beefing with another one of Barcelona's established stars, prolific Cameroonian striker Samuel Eto'o. Eto'o was a legend in the making, winning 2 La Ligas in 3 seasons, as well as the Champions League in 2005, as he was regarded as one of the best strikers in the world. But Eto'o's gripes with Guardiola didn't stem from a lack of playing time. It was quite the opposite. Eto'o was instrumental in Guardiola's immediate success, scoring a staggering 30 league goals in 36 La Liga appearances and 4 goals in 10 Champions League appearances, as Guardiola's team would win the prestigious treble in his first season as a top-flight manager, with Eto'o scoring in the Champions League final himself. While no one was denying Eto'o's ability as a footballer, it seemed he had a really tough time accepting Guardiola's authority. Eto'o would tell beIN Sports years later, "I first reminded Guardiola he was never a great player, he was a good player." Eto'o refused to take instruction from Guardiola, adding, "He wanted to give me pointers on how forward should move. I tell him, Pep, you were a midfielder, not a great forward." And Eto'o is entitled to his opinion, but let the record show that Guardiola played for Barcelona from 1990 to 2001, winning 6 La Ligas and 1 European Cup. Guardiola wasn't a good player, he was a great player. Either way, Eto'o felt that Guardiola had disrespected the entire Barcelona locker room by getting rid of the star players we mentioned earlier.
Un terrain d'entente avec Pep, et j'ai dit, moi je parle pas à Pep, il doit me présenter ses excuses, parce qu'il m'a manqué le respect ouvertement à plusieurs reprises, et je n'accepte pas ça. Moi, si vous ne me respectez pas, je ne vous respecte pas. C'est comme ça.
It all came to an end in the summer of 2009 when Barcelona paid Inter Milan 45 million euros to take Eto'o off of their hands in exchange for the player at the heart of Guardiola's most toxic football feud of all time. In hindsight, I actually can't believe that anyone thought this was going to work. In 2009, Barcelona brought one of the most outspoken egomaniacs in the history of football into a dressing room that personified the values of team and cooperation. Barcelona's slogan, "Més que un club," is Catalan for more than a club. The club ethos promotes humility and teamwork, while Zlatan's ethos promotes Zlatan. Ibra left Inter at the peak of his powers, scoring 25 goals in 35 league games as Serie A's top goalscorer. Zlatan had won 3 consecutive Scudettos and was awarded the Serie A Player of the Year in 2007 and 2008. So you couldn't blame him for expecting Barcelona to make him the focal point of their offense, especially when they just went out of their way to swap him for Samuel Eto'o. Until you remember that Barcelona was home to the best player on the planet, Lionel Messi. Guardiola knew that the Argentine was key to Barcelona dominating world football and did everything in his power to build a team around Leo, even if it came at the expense of other players. To Ibra's credit, he still had an incredible start to his first La Liga season, scoring 7 goals in his first 7 league games. But in his autobiography, I Am Zlatan, Ibra writes, "It started well, but then Messi started to talk. He wanted to play in the middle, not on the wing, so the system changed from 4-3-3 to 4-5-1. I was sacrificed and no longer had the freedom on the pitch I need to succeed." Zlatan felt undervalued and underused, leaving us with one of the most famous Zlatanisms of all time, telling Guardiola, "You bought a Ferrari, but you drive it like a Fiat." Things reached an explosive climax when Barcelona were knocked out of the Champions League semi-finals in February by, ironically enough, Zlatan's old club, Inter Milan. Samuel Eto'o had the last laugh, as the loss resulted in Zlatan confronting Guardiola in the changing room and yelling, "You haven't got any balls. You can go to hell." Ibra would go on to call Guardiola a spineless coward for never saying anything back to him. And from then on, it was only a matter of time before Pep would send him elsewhere. Despite 16 goals in 29 La Liga appearances and winning the league title in his first season, the Swede was sent to AC Milan that same summer. And since leaving Barcelona, has never missed an opportunity to remind us what he thinks of his former coach.
You don't like him as a person?
He's not a man. There's nothing more to say.
And sure, you can chalk up Zlatan's beef as an ego-driven tantrum gone wrong, and if you wanted to put Samuel Eto'o in the same bracket, be my guest. But when other players like Mario Götze say that Pep Guardiola lacks empathy, it makes you start to think. Center-back Dante was even more scathing about his time with Guardiola at Bayern Munich, stating, "There are coaches that from a tactical point of view are world-class, but on a human level they're not so good." That is the case with Guardiola. And we could keep going, with Mario Mandzukic, Cesc Fabregas, and Joe Hart all reporting frosty relationships with Pep as well. And with João Cancelo leaving City so abruptly this January, it begs the question, is Pep Guardiola the most toxic manager of all time? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Is Pep to blame for all of these fallouts? Either way, Pep always seems to get the last laugh, as evidenced by his consistent success at the absolute highest level. But while Guardiola has undoubtedly left his mark on the beautiful game, there's no denying he's done a lot to showcase the ugliest side of it too. And that's all I got for today, everyone. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and smash that like button. And if you want to see something even more toxic, click right here. I'm serious, it's absolutely insane. Click it. Till next time, everyone.